Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of Talking About Joshi, my very inconsistent audio podcast. If there's any sounds you hear in the background, I'm sorry. There's a full house tonight and everyone's up. So, yeah. I have been kind of in a creative rut lately with Stardom on and off again. It's kind of ruined my momentum, and I just don't really know what to make video-wise, because the video I'm working on now requires so much research. It's probably going to be the most researched video I do ever. I can't just go to a random website like Cage Match or Pro Love or Wrestling Data. I can't just go to one of those and then look up the stats. I have to actually individually watch every single match from 2019 to present day and actually watch them. I can watch them a little bit sped up, but for the most part, I have to watch every single one of them and actually pay attention. So it's going to take a really long time. And while I'm focusing on that, I'm kind of having a hard time coming up with something else to do. So I went to Twitter and I asked, what kind of video should I make? I've gotten some pretty good suggestions so far. Well, one of the ones I saw was a freestyle podcast, which I don't know what that means, but I realize I haven't done a podcasting yet, and it's something I don't really need to plan. I could just plug in the mic, write down some notes about what I want to talk about, and then go. And then for some reason, people listen to it. Alright, so a number of different things I'm going to be talking about today. The first one is the Stardom show cancellations and everything that goes with that. And then the Himika and Maika officially signing. And then finally, whether the Stardom show cancellations saved TCS or if it just delayed their disbandment. So let's start with the Stardom show cancellations. The first thing I have here is that 2 employees apparently tested positive. I have seen around that apparently Julia was one of the 2 that had it, which I don't know. I didn't really see anything on her Twitter to indicate that she had tested positive, but I was told that she was getting a bunch of crap online for it. So I don't know. Maybe it was announced somewhere and I just didn't see it because it was probably in Japanese or something. I don't know. Whether it was Julia or not, it really doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter who tested positive, because even if we knew, what's that going to change? I mean, it's not like it's that person's fault. You know, they caught a highly contagious, disease. Or, virus? I think virus. Right? Virus is probably the best way to... I don't know. Anyway. So, that really doesn't matter to me. I don't care who caught it. As long as once they have it, they are, following protocols that Stardom put into place, or the Japanese government, whatever. But apparently 2 different employees test positive. So what happened was they originally had a show planned. I can't remember the exact date right here off the top of my head. But they had a show that they were going to do. I think it was on the 25th or 23rd or 24th or something. Or no, it was the one before that. Anyway, so they were going to have a show. And while they were there at the show, the people in the crowd, they were getting ready for the show. Apparently, they got word that a person who hadn't come to the show with them had tested positive. So they canceled the show, and they canceled the rest of the shows of that month later, which involved the 2 shows that were happening back-to-back at the new arena, which was supposed to have a white belt rematch between Tam and Julia, I believe. And then we were supposed to get the high-speed title match there as well. So both of those were canceled. And then we were also supposed to get a red belt defense. I can't remember who she was defending against off the top of my head. I think it was Shitty. But Mayu was supposed to defend against Shitty, I think, in those shows as well. So those were 3 title matches that were canceled because of it, which really sucks, because I would really like to see Tam versus Julia again, even though I think it's a little too early for them to be facing already. I mean, that was the match that we got for the white belt, and then Julia's first defense was going to be Tam again. I just felt like it was a little too soon. It didn't really make much sense, but I knew it was probably going to be a really good match, so I wanted to see it. The high-speed belt match, I'm upset about not being able to see as well because I really wanted to see Azumi's first defense. I didn't think that she was probably going to defend it, though. A part of me thought that it would just be like Rossi and Stardom to have Azumi lose on her first defense to Starlight Kid. But I had hope. I had big hope, but not very strong hope that she was actually going to defend and then, go on. I have no doubts that the match itself probably would have been pretty great because both Azumi and Starlight Kid are very talented, and then they work best together. So you know that they were going to knock the park out of the ball out of the park. The third match, the red belt match, which I believe was Mayu versus Shuri. I could be wrong on this, but I don't really fully know because I hadn't even written that down in the notes because I just remembered it while recording, and I didn't remember it while I was writing my notes. That match, that's going to be good. Mayu versus Shuri, So because of the cancellations, the 5-star matches were moved. Now, a lot of people were in speculation about what was going to happen, and what apparently happened was instead of canceling the 5-star or something like that, they decided to cancel all the shows for August and then do like every single match like back to back to back in September. So every show that they have in September is pretty much packed beginning to end 5-star matches, which is going to be good, but then at the same time it's also going to mean the matches are probably going to be shorter than they were supposed to be originally, which is going to be unfortunate. But because Stardom now is able to hold the arenas longer, my theory, ever since Bushiroad, because their shows have gotten about 30 minutes to like 40 minutes longer than they usually were. I believe that this could still mean that we're going to get some pretty good matches, but some of the matches that we thought were probably going to have decent amount of time limits, like 15 minutes or whatever, are probably going to get knocked down to 10, unfortunately. With that said, the only thing left is Kaori and Riho couldn't participate in Emi Sakura's 25th anniversary show. And the reason for that was because after the announcement from Stardom and everything like that, that means that Riho and Kaori were both in contact with someone who had tested positive. So they wouldn't have been able to get tested and proven that they didn't have it in time to go to the show, which is a huge shame because, Kaori, of course, because I bet her and Emi know each other for a very long time. They're probably really good friends. They've wrestled each other many, many times. Even worse, though, is that Riho couldn't participate or attend because Riho is Emi's disciple. They've been together pretty much from Riho's day one of debuting. She got trained by Emi. She left Ice Ribbon with Emi to start Gato Move. So it's just a real shame that Riho couldn't go, especially because of something outside of her control. Just because she decided to work Stardom, she can't go. And that's a real unfortunate. Luckily, I haven't seen anybody use that as a reason to hate Stardom. People hate Stardom all the time, but I haven't seen anybody talk about that specifically as a reason to kind of hate on Stardom or one of the girls. But like I said, most foreign fans, the English-speaking ones, they're not the type that are going on Twitter and harassing these girls. So I don't know if any of them are getting crap for it. If they are, it's in Japanese, so I don't know. The last thing under the Stardom show cancellations that I kind of wanted to talk about in its own section was the whole TCS, the Tokyo Cyber Squad, disbandment theory / pretty much confirmation. So, for those of you who don't know, a little while ago at one of the press conferences, Natsuko decided to make a wager with Jungle or Konami, one of the TCS members, those two, that their TCS versus Odotai match, if Odotai were to win, then TCS were to be disbanded and they would be no more. a lot of people, myself included, felt that it was, TCS was getting the axe. There was really nothing indicating that they weren't going to get the axe. The only thing in their favor is that pretty much in history of Odotai since Kagetsu, because Kagetsu was the one that kind of started this trend, any kind of wager or kind of stipulation invented by Odotai usually ended up biting them in the butt. They lost their ability to do their pre-match entrance dance routine by putting that on the line with Odotai with a dance versus mask match. Then they got screwed over with the whole loser leaves faction match, which is what caused Tam to leave Odotai originally. It just the only thing that really ever worked out for them was the draft, which in kayfabe is Kagetsu's idea. It might even be Kagetsu's idea backstage. I don't know, but it does seem interesting that the 1 year that she wasn't here for when the draft's supposed to happen, it no longer was happening. So it could be just her in general that wanted it to happen. That's the only time Odotai ever kind of comes out on top when it comes to stipulations like that, is the draft. That right there is the only kind of indication or hope that the only thing, like I said, that kind of indicated that TCS might come out of this clean is Odotai's history of pretty much screwing up every stipulation they come up with. So, let's go to the other side of that coin, though. All of the bad indicators that they were not going to stick around. One was TCS after Hana's passing. Unfortunately, has kind of floundered. They really haven't done anything of note. Not because they're not talented or anything like that, but right after Jungle went after the red belt, failed. Jungle and Konami both went after the tag belts, failed. So it's very obvious that if they were going to stick around, they probably would have thrown some kind of belt on them, right? Now, the other indication is that when a video was uploaded to Stardom's YouTube channel, it was Mayu and Tam, right? They were at some kind of company or whatever working with people to develop or talk about a new merch of Stardom, which were keychains. And all of the keychains, the different types of keychains, they had one for Odotai, they had one for Stars, they had one for, Donna Del Mondo, and they had one for Queen's Quest. But one was noticeably lacking from the video. Nowhere in the video did it ever show any kind of TCS version. And to me, that was kind of the nail in the coffin, mixed, with already knowing all of the other stuff, that TCS was pretty much out. Now, some people didn't want to use this as an indication that maybe TCS didn't want any kind of new merch or whatever, so they bowed out. That doesn't make any sense because we are currently in a Odotai anti-establishment era of Odotai, and they're getting one too. So I don't really see this as a kayfabe merch. This is purely a, outside of kayfabe merch. This is a company merch. This isn't the factions themselves in kayfabe, selling these. So all of the evidence just kind of stacks too much in favor of TCS getting the axe. Now, what that means, it's unfortunately not good, in my opinion. I think a lot of us, maybe not all of us, amongst the foreign fans, I kind of felt like it was 50-50. 50% wanted them gone after Hana passed, which I totally understand. I didn't agree, though. I was on the other side. I wanted them to stick around. And they did for a while. And they just haven't felt the same. I don't know if it's because Hana passed or not. I don't know. All I know is that when they're out there, they just don't feel the same anymore. Maybe they're just not able to pull off the spirit of TCS, because every time they do, it's just a huge reminder. And it might be maybe even subconsciously weighing on them, because since the comeback, yes, Jungle has had great matches, and so has Konami, but as a group, it just doesn't feel like a group anymore. It doesn't feel special. It might just be because the only people there that are part of TCS are Jungle and Konami and, Death, with Rina not really interacting with them too much because she's been kind of stuck in pre-match matches, with Hina and whatnot. It just feels odd. So I'm saying pretty much 95% sure they are being disbanded still. It just has been delayed because their original match with the stipulation was delayed because of the cancellations. So where do I think all of them are going to go? That's a real tough one, because certain ones are a little bit easier to place. Like, I could see Konami going either to DDM or probably Stars. It has to be either DDM or Stars. There's no way she's going back to Queen's Quest because of her history with Queen's Quest. She's anti-Queen's Quest ever since the draft where she left. There's just no way that they can make her realistically go back, especially now that there's no draft and they can't just force her to be back. It has to kind of be her own decision. And the two places I think she would fit the most in is DDM number 1, but that would be a terrible decision because DDM is already super powerful, like way too powerful, almost too powerful to the point where I can probably see some kind of split or a member leaving, maybe. I don't know who. Maybe Micah, maybe Shitty. I don't know. But they are kind of way too powerful right now. They remind me a lot of Odotai right after a draft, because Odotai always gets the best draft options and whatnot. So right after the draft, they're always the strongest team, but then things kind of settle and they're, things kind of even out eventually. Right now, DDM is a little too powerful, so adding Konami, or any member, for that matter, from TCS to DDM would just be a huge catalyst shift into one faction, even more than it already is. So, it kind of has to be Stars. I can't see her in Odotai. She just doesn't cheat. The cheating that she does do is the cheating that every wrestler does, just holding something on the rope until, she gets forced to. She never really uses weapons. I'm sure she could probably pull off Odotai, but I just don't really see her in Odotai right now. But that's probably where she would end up, because she doesn't really fit in Stars either. Then you got Death, who could very easily go to Odotai. And that's what I would thought, I was like, oh yeah, obviously Odotai. But she doesn't really fit the new Odotai, because Death, while weird and outcasty, is pretty much a face. She's lovable, people like her. She's a little bit of a comedy character right now. So I just can't really see her joining Odotai. If anybody's going to join Odotai, it has to be someone good so that they can balance out the weakness that they have right now. So the only place I could see her going and maybe fitting in would be, unfortunately, again, Stars. So Konami to Odotai, probably Death to Stars, which it doesn't make sense because she doesn't fit at all. But the new current Odotai doesn't really fit the current Death, so I don't know. Then you have Rina. And Rina, easy, Odotai. I could see her clearly going there. You can even make it a storyline-wise that she wants to follow in the footsteps of her old mentor, Hana. And Odotai is where she started. So if there's no TCS, you can go to Odotai. I don't see her rejoining Stars. She's too much of a non-heels feel right now. or not heels, non-stars feel right now. So she just can't go there. She can't. She does not fit in Queen's Quest. It would be kind of interesting for her to go to Queen's Quest though, and then her and Hina, teaming up and becoming like a tag team. I just don't see it happening. She could possibly go to DDM. I guess it just depends on how easily she's willing to give up her freedom to have to go to the gym all the time. I don't know. I would say probably Odotai for Rina. And then last but not least, Jungle. Where would Jungle go? And Jungle's kind of the toughest because she's not going to Queen's Quest because her and Utami hate each other. She's definitely not going back to Stars because, she literally broke off from Stars to create her own group before. She's not going back to Stars. I can't see her going to Odotai. Her and Natsuko freaking hate each other. I don't think Natsuko hates her, or I don't think Jungle hates Natsuko, but the other way around. I don't think they would be able to work together. So the only group left is DDM. And even then, I don't think so. So I really don't know where she's going to go. Maybe they're planning on giving her own faction again. Or maybe they're not going to have to force maybe they're not going to force everyone into a faction again. And, maybe they're all just going to be independent again. Or maybe when they're disbanded, they're just like, all right, we're not TCS now, we're this. And they all just stay together anyway, but they're under a new name to get by the rules. Who knows? All right, with that, let's go on to the last thing on this list. Himika and Maika officially signed to Stardom. When they started wrestling in Stardom, it was under speculation whether they had signed or not. Both of them, it was quite obvious right away that one of them had not signed, Maika, because she was signed under JTO, Just Tap Out. Taka Michinoku, I think. I could be saying that like terribly. I don't know. Sorry, but his promotion, she was still signed under that, so it's obvious that she hadn't signed to Stardom. Well, Himika was a little different because she was technically a freelancer, and the only promotion she was working was Stardom. So was she signed to Stardom? We didn't know. We kind of assumed because of tweets saying that she's like the newest Stardom member and whatnot. But it wasn't until very recently, and by very recently, it was probably like a month ago or a couple weeks ago, they announced on the same day that they had both officially signed to Stardom. Maika had left her old promotion and decided to join Stardom. Whether this was an amicable kind of adventure, we don't know yet. I find it hard to believe that this could have happened under bad terms. Maybe I just don't want Stardom to be in bad blood with 4 promotions instead of 3. And for those of you who don't know, I feel like Stardom has bad blood with Ice Ribbon. What was the Ice Ribbon? Obviously, Seedling, of course, and then Sendai Girls. That's just a feeling, though. There's really no proof that they do have bad blood, but there's also no proof that they don't have bad blood. Ever since Miyagi left them and joined Stardom a while ago, it didn't really seem like there was any kind of partnership there anyway, anymore. And especially now that Miyagi left and she's now working JTO, it makes me wonder what the connection between Stardom and JTO is, especially if Stardom is willing to take their number one female in a very small female roster, by the way. I think they only have like 2 or 3 people now after Maika left. And the fact that they had Maika lose to the new rookie of JTO on her way out makes me think that this might have been either amicable, and that was the stipulation for allowing her to get out of whatever contract she was in and go to Stardom, was that Stardom had to allow her to put over the new rookie, or it wasn't amicable, and they are upset, so they made her lose on her way out. Who knows? We don't know because the Japanese never tell us anything. And maybe that's for the best. Speculation can get very dangerous. But the problem is that without word, people's speculation, they're going to take it as fact. I know people who listen to my words, even if I straight up say this isn't guaranteed, or it's an opinion, or I don't have any proof, this is just me looking at all of the things that we see and making a connection, there's still people who will take that as word and say that as like it's fact. So I don't know if that's better off for them. Some things I understand, like not releasing the names of the people who tested positive for the corona. That makes a lot of sense. You don't want to send unnecessary hate to someone. And then other times, like the whole Miyagi situation, the Hazuki situation, the Micah situation, just any kind of like, even if it's a little vague, just any kind of word to hint one way or the other what's going on. Because people's speculation can sometimes make things way worse and make people look worse. Thank you, everybody. Hope you liked it, and see you next time. This has been Strokovich with Talking About Joshi. Bye.